Hi everybody, I'm Ryan, and here are my top 5 most bizarre Magic the Gathering cards ever printed. Things that do really weird things, and I'm going to ignore things in unsets, because nearly anything in an unset is weird, so I don't think that counts. We're going to be focused on things that are legal in sanctioned Magic the Gathering at some point in its life. Starting off with number 5, Divine Intervention. Divine Intervention is an 8-mana white enchantment that enters the battlefield with 2 intervention counters on it. And at the beginning of your upkeep, remove an intervention counter from Divine Intervention. If there are no intervention counters on it, the game is a draw. Now, drawing games of Magic is reasonably common. Like, when I think about it, I think of it's like storming players when you're both at less than 3. But the purpose of a card to literally make it a draw is super weird. Especially a really overcosted way into not winning the game, but instead drawing the game. It's kind of a troll card for Commander, which is really silly. And number 4 is Raging River, which is a 2-mana enchantment. That's whenever one or more creatures you control attack, each defending player divides all creatures without flying they control into a left pile and a right pile. Then for each attacking creature you control, choose left or right. That creature can't be blocked this combat except by creatures with flying and creatures in a pile with the chosen label. So Raging River essentially just makes it a little harder to block, but I think it's super flavorful, and it's kind of cool because it turns Magic into a game of lanes, where you're essentially sending one group of monsters attacking down one lane, one down another, and your opponent has to divide up the creatures properly to block, not knowing what creatures you're gonna send down what lane. It's really cool and so weird. Number 3 is Goblin Game, which is a 7-mana sorcery where each player hides at least one object, then all players reveal them simultaneously. Each player loses life equal to the number of objects he or she revealed. The player who revealed the fewest objects then loses half his or her life rounded up. If 2 or more players are tied for the fewest, each loses half of his or her life rounded up. So essentially what you're doing with this card is finding some small objects like coins or dice or something like that, hiding them, and then together revealing them. Now, the more you reveal, the more life you lose, but if you reveal the fewest, you lose half your life. I think this is a really weird card because it uses game objects not in the game. Like, it literally makes you hide objects from your opponent and then reveal. It's super weird. It's really weird. Number 2 is Shahrazad, which is a 2-mana white sorcery that say the players must leave the game in progress as it is and use the cards left in their libraries as decks which play a sub-game of Magic. When the sub-game is over, players shuffle these cards, return them to their libraries, and resume the game in progress, with any loser of the sub-game having his or her remaining life points rounded down. Effects that prevent damage may not be used to counter this loss of life. The sub-game has no ante. Using less than 40 cards may be necessary. So just a 2-mana sorcery that creates a sub-game of Magic is already really silly. Like, the idea of sub-games existing, especially like, imagine this in a tournament setting, which I realize this card is banned in every format. But imagine this in a tournament setting and just like letting the judge know, like, hey, I need to play a sub-game. Can I have another table? Or like, what do you do? Or like play under the, I know there's cards that like make you play under the table or things like that. But this was a legal card at one point, which is wild. Also imagine sub-games within sub-games, because you could cast this card while you're already in a sub-game. It's so silly. Also, good luck ever like winning a game of Magic in time when this card exists. Then, in my opinion, the weirdest card in Magic the Gathering is Chaos Orb. So Chaos Orb is an artifact for 2 mana, and you can pay 1 mana to flip it onto the playing area from a height of at least 1 foot. Chaos Orb must turn completely over at least once, or it is discarded with no effect. When Chaos Orb lands, any cards in play it touches are destroyed, as is Chaos Orb. So first off, this is a card that relies on dexterity, which Magic just doesn't do anymore. That's not a cool way to make cards. But number 2, using foot, which most of the world doesn't use. So imagine like a European trying to play this and just like 1 foot. Like, what do you mean 1 foot? Whose foot? And then there's always that infamous story of people ripping up their Chaos Orbs and just like scattering it over the play area and destroying the entirety of their opponent's board. Also, if my opponent is using Chaos Orb, I'm spreading out my cards as much as possible. And I don't know, it's just hard to imagine how this card existed. And it's so funny. But those are, in my opinion, the top 5 most bizarre Magic cards ever printed. What are your top 5? Let me know in the comments. And if you like this video, please be sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on social medias. Links are above me and in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.